So I'm going to call our meeting to order. Welcome to Sunrise School Division regular board meeting for January the 9th, 2024. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Welcome everybody. Happy New Year. We're going to have O Canada by Dugald School. Please stand if you can do so. Thank you, merci to Cole Dugald. We have a treaty acknowledgement, and I'm going to ask Trustee Dent for a treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in the spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thank you, Dustin. For the people that are online in the room tonight with us, we have 8 of our trustees: Trustee Rowan, Trustee Reed, Trustee Rowland, Trustee Smith, Trustee Boyson, Trustee Dent, and Trustee Harris. Online with us is Trustee Nickel. And in the room we have Superintendent Timko, Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, Assistant Superintendent Fieldberg, our executive support to our board, who's doing a great job for us, Stacy Bonato, and we have our assistant, our superintendent-elect, Mr. Reed, in the background. Have I missed anybody? All right. So we need an adoption of the agenda. So be it resolved that the board approve the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any questions to this? Hearing none, we'll vote. We're going to do it in camera, from out of in camera. So it passed 9-0. Thank you. 3.1 talks about chair's comments. It was great. I think Kathy, you mentioned it. It was great to have students and staff back at school, and that we didn't have a snowstorm, to start us off. And I think that as something came up, we rolled with it the last today. So good work to all of our staff and students about rolling with it. A reminder that to send any questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca, name and address of the sender to be included in the email, and we'll try and answer your questions at the end of the night. I'll open up the floor to share a story. Does anybody want to share a story? Trustee Boyson.
I had the opportunity to attend 5 school concerts, and they were all wonderful. Great job by students and staff. I just want to note, Hazelwood School rents the Cooks Creek Community Centre to hold their concert. And I want to give a big shout out and thank you to first the Community Centre Executive for giving the school a discounted rate, and also to Cobra Mechanical, who covered the rental cost at $400. So thank you so much for your generosity.
Thanks, Lorraine. Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
I wanted to mention that SCI is having a PAC meeting on the 30th of this month. We're hoping to get a few parents out. It's at 7 p.m. in the library. I also wanted to mention that Oakbank Parents for Ukrainian Immersion is having their Malonka celebration on January 27th. They're selling tickets and they're also looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in attending, reach out to them.
Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else? Trustee Harris?
I was able to attend the Gillis Christmas concert back, obviously, before Christmas. And I also had the opportunity as the STA liaison to meet with them and our staff just before Christmas. A good time was had by all. Thank you.
I think it goes without saying that we want to say thank you on behalf of the board to all of our staff for the work that they do for their Christmas concerts. Kath, I know that the work that goes into a Christmas concert for classroom teachers and for music teachers and kids are excited and it's a great time of the year, but it's a lot of work. But it is something that we're pretty proud of, and thank you to all of our staff for going ahead and doing that. We haven't covered all the Christmas concerts at all. I think that a number of you went to a number of different Christmas concerts from our senior staff, and thank you for going ahead and doing that. That is also, you know, a fair bit of time for yourselves and traveling and those kind of things, so it's appreciated. But again, I think that I can remember as a proud parent of a little guy that's like this and singing at the top of his lungs and singing away and nowhere near on key, but I'll tell you something, there was a proud dad and proud mom, as there is with all of us when we do those kind of things. So thank you to the staff for the work that they go ahead and do. Last chance, share a story. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. 4.0, we don't have any board delegation. We're going to move right into our meeting. 5.1 is our minutes, so it be it resolved that the board adopt the December 5th board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowland, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any questions to the minutes? Sorry, I said Trustee Rowland and Trustee Smith. Did I not do that? Yeah. I'm sorry, Stace. You can just yell at me one more time. Anyways, any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. So it passed, the minutes passed 8-0 with one abstention. Superintendent's report. Kath, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I do get the chance to say congratulations to all students and staff. We do make a schedule and we head out and we hit dress rehearsals and afternoon concerts and evening concerts, and we try to get to as many as we can as a divisional team. They are all absolutely fabulous, and the hard work that goes into them is absolutely noticed and valued. It's a tough time of year, but the joy in those little faces is pretty cool. We roll into January and we have kind of that whole essence of we've got to start planning for next year. So a bit of my report is the next year planning. January, we start kindergarten registration. So the last week of January is usually when we do kindergarten registrations. We're going to firm that date up this Thursday. So we will have the actual dates, and I'll bring those next Tuesday to our meeting. It is pretty important to us that we get students registered for kindergarten because it helps us with our staffing process. It also helps parents with their readiness to make sure that they know what they need to get. We have a bit of a report on our early years assessment that you'll see, and all of those steps are pretty important to getting ready for next year. We do an online kindergarten registration as well as one evening in person. We've had tons of positive feedback from families about being able to fill out the online registration on our own time as opposed to having to try and fit the appointment in at the school. So we do have both of those options that will come up. The evening session is different at every school. So keeping track of that here is not probably a good use of our time. Check the school websites, call the school, they'll have the exact time and know when their evening is. One of the board's biggest jobs this January is they get to roll up their sleeves and start working on the budget for the upcoming school year. So lots of budget meetings to happen in the month of January. We held a meeting in December to start getting some information from stakeholders, and there are a number of different ways that you can get information to us around what you'd like us to consider. So there's an email address, budget@sunrise.sd.ca. You can contact any of the trustees around the room or any of the senior administration team, and we'll make sure that all of that gets funneled into the process and considered. Pretty important for high school students, they're going to wrap up first semester, and then they're going to start doing their course selections for the next year. Pretty important as parents to make sure that you're looking at that last page of the report card and doing the credit check. Making sure that everything's on track, because you get that printout of how many credits someone has. So it's pretty important to kind of do that final push. You know, we're getting into that routine of getting back out of bed, but the final push for getting back into classes is important. Last one is that we, this week, have got some provincial exams back on the go. So our grade 12 students have been writing English language arts beginning today and through this week. Français is next week. And then the week of January 23rd is the math exams, all 3 sections there. If there is any interest in the complete assessment, the link is there. We are all back and happy to be in schools and learning again for 2024. So lots of forward-thinking stuff.
Thank you, Kath. Any questions for Kathy? Kathy, what will be really interesting, I think, is that as we come back through our first, this is provincial exams, and we've been away from it for a little while. It'll be interesting to get some feedback from you, from the staff and students, as to certainly how what was the feel with kids and staff and that kind of stuff. And of course, we're always interested in certainly how our students do. But I know that the English one started today, did it not? Yeah. So it's a 4-day exam, and always an interesting one when kids are writing, and then certainly about us preparing those kids. So kudos. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on. We have our draft reporting schedule. It's there. If you can put it up on the screen, one of you. It's there for information. A reminder that Kathy's delivering stuff to us. She's delivering those 2 yellow grade 1 to 8 report card data. We've had some of that information. So as you see, that's the information that's coming to us. If we want to change it and look for other information, we need to let them know. But thanks for this. Any questions on the draft reporting schedule? Okay, hearing none. Jody, Secretary Treasurer's report. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Just wanted to give everybody an update what some of the departments have been doing. Finance was busy. Myself and the purchasing manager went to visit all the schools just before the month of December wrapped up. So we saw all the schools to review what the anticipated plan is for the budget schedule, talking to them about how to stay on top of spending your budget to its full potential, making sure that we're hitting target dates on expected timelines and things like that. So it was really good to see everybody and go over stuff, and I hope to get back into the schools after the budget's complete to talk to them about what the budget for 24-25 is going to look like. So that'll be starting in March. I've also been busy with a team of some schools, our purchasing department, and ICT. We are looking at an online payment system. The work that has been done since the summer to present is basically looking at what options are out there. We've heard feedback from families, from PACs, and schools, of course, saying that families want an option of online payments to pay for transportation fees and things like that. Between transportation and other fees that they've been collecting, music, rental fees, all those kind of items that the families usually pay for right up front at the beginning of the school year. So we're looking at options and seeing if it could be considered in the 24-25 budget. There was a lot of different options out there, and we're looking at the best one that is easy to use and can integrate into our accounting system, and try and reduce workload for all folks between the schools to the internal operations. Other than that, transportation, I just want to welcome back all the bus drivers. On the 8th was the first day everybody had the buses running, so there were a couple buses that were delayed by a few minutes. That was posted on our website, but I just hope everybody had a restful time off. Our propane bus, I wrote the report back in December, and I got feedback that yes, our newest propane bus has been added to the fleet. So we were just waiting for a component to come in, or a part for the bus. That's in, and the bus is now on the road. So we'll have an update from transportation next week on our propane buses. There's other information from maintenance here as to the updates of the projects. I'll let you all read that. Other than that, just to update everybody with the former Reynolds School property, the division was notified that there was a clause in the sales agreement. The division will be issued a check about $50,000 less any legal fees for the transaction. I'm just waiting to hear back from the province to confirm if we get to keep those dollars or if we have to turn it over. There's been some changeover in the department at the province level, so they didn't have an exact answer for it. So I've advised them that we do have plans that we could spend this money on. So ideally we'd prefer to keep it because we have some purchases that we need to make in the future. So, but once I get feedback from the province, I'll know more, and hopefully by the next board meeting I'll get some information. That's it.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Trustee Boyton?
Just wondering on the online payment system, if you check this in the other divisions that have any of those, and what their thoughts are.
Yeah, that was part of the process too. We've done reference checks with some of the vendors. The vendor that we've been looking at has a couple school divisions that have implemented it. One is in the queue of implementing it. So we've checked with other divisions, and it all comes down to how well the system can be set up right off the hop. If it wasn't set up properly, there's hiccups, and so we're kind of learning from other school divisions, what is the best approach to implement it and how to make sure everybody's trained and kind of getting the groundwork done ahead of schedule or ahead of the game. Yeah.
Trustee Smith?
At one of the PAC meetings that I was at, I remember one of the moms saying that she works for Lord Selkirk, and they already have this implemented. So I'm guessing you already talked to Lord Selkirk.
Sorry about that, Alicia. Robin talked about, Trustee Harris said about, were we going to do anything, were you going to comment on the power outage at all?
Yeah, so good point. I was going to just update everybody verbally on the power outage that happened by the Oakbank complexes. So that's Oakbank Elementary, Springfield Middle School, and Springfield Collegiate. We had a couple of vendors. We had about 4 vendors out as soon as we heard that the power was out. And I want to thank our maintenance department as well as the head custodians that worked closely with each other in coordinating getting the schools up and running. So when our power is out at the schools, we have no water running, and when there's no water running, the boiler system is not running as effective as it should be. So we had companies like CG Electric, ESP Mechanical, After Hours Plumbing, and Johnson Controls all out at 3 sites coordinating different components of the HVAC system, the boilers, the well pumps, as well as the air compressors. So we've had a lot of work being done replacing parts during the day to make sure that we can have the schools up and running and having all the water running back in the schools, as well as the heating system. So I just want to say thank you for the schools for accommodating. I know it's a stressful time when it's cold outside and the heating system's not working. So I want to say thanks to the staff and students coordinating and working with everybody.
Any questions for Jody? Thanks, Jody. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda is some board business. We have monthly enrollment information that's there for information. Does anybody have any quick question around that? And thank you for showing that to us, Kath. Okay, we have grade 1 to 8 report card data. The floor is yours, Kath.
Thanks. So this is a pretty frequent report that we've seen now a couple of times, and so I just wanted to do a couple of highlights, partly so that we can remind ourselves what we're looking at, but then if there's anybody new watching our feed, they can look at that as well. This is our report card data, and this gives us a standard item across the province because every school division in the province uses the Manitoba report card, so it's common categories. This talks a little bit about the Power BI software that we use to kind of filter that. The 4 things that we look at in line with our strategic plan and our learning framework are critical thinking, problem solving, reading, and writing. They also have outcomes in the curriculum that would lead us to be able to look at that in terms of growth across the grade. I'll take you through the slides in a little bit to talk a little bit about what each of the categories and how to look at those things. But from this level, it's pretty important that we want to be able to take the information from term 1 as a baseline look. We want to say, where is a grade 2 student at after term 1? Where is a grade 5 student at after term 1? And to watch that growth student by student throughout the school year. The ideal is 1 year of learning for 1 year of attending school. At the divisional level, we get to drill down into the topics and the grades and the skills, and we can look at that school by school and by different criteria. Again, term 1 is a report card. Sometimes we get the question around, well, how did those kids, how did they do last year? And it's important for us to look at each year as a baseline, because when I finished grade 2 as an example, I then start grade 3, and even though I left grade 2 with maybe 4s on my report card, I'm now learning new material in grade 3, and I may not be up there at the 4s. So I'm starting each grade kind of with that baseline in term 1, and we're looking for progress through the year, and we're looking for that shift for happening for students in the learning across the grade levels. When you look at the PowerPoint or the data presentation, you would look at a couple of things. So the first section would be critical thinking. Over on the right-hand side, this would tell you that this is the grade 1 data, or term 1, and it would tell us we're talking about critical thinking. The numbers at the top of the bar would tell you there's 18 students here, 87 here, 160 at 3s, 56 at 4s, and we've got a couple of NAs and NDs. NA and NDs have to have principal feedback on them, so a teacher can't give those without having a conversation with the principal or the administration of the school so that they know why there is that on a report card. Sometimes that's because someone's on an individual plan, sometimes that's because someone has just joined the school and we don't have the information. Sometimes it's that we haven't covered it or a student's been away for a period when something was covered, but it is always with explanation. I won't take you through the spin of all of that. You have all of the data and that's online, but that's what you're looking for. The reports you would have seen earlier in the year would have had the full year where we're looking at that shift from students moving from 2s to 3s to 4s. This is the starting point. What I look at from the starting point is there anything remarkable on these? And I also drill down by schools, and I can say to you that there is nothing on any of this data that would say, wow, we need to be looking at something critically here. It's pretty unremarkable. It's pretty normal. We're not we're not way out there and we're not way down there, so it's looking right on track.
So you stole my question, Kath, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you, was about, I'm going to use the word remarkable, school by school, were there any red flags? And so you're telling us that there aren't any red flags that are coming out. And our schools then, so schools come and they present school goals to us. Are they tying themselves to their school goals in the conversations that you're having? Are you happy with that process as well?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I go on rotation with all of our schools. Every 6 weeks they get me in their office and we actually walk through the data and their school plan, and we have about an hour's long professional conversation around how's it going, what are you using, what are you looking at. We have questions that we walk away with, let's talk about this next time. They can take the opportunity to look at this data. If there's something that I've noticed, I can have that conversation with them about where they should be heading. They look at other data that might be a little closer to the school plan or to their own school goal, but they absolutely have to look at all of that data all the way along. This is just that snapshot at report card.
Great, thanks, Kath. Lars, I've never asked you this question before, but I'm going to ask you now, and you can tell me whether you know or not. But the same thing then would go for you with our students, and I need to make sure I've got the exceptional needs. Thanks. So all of our exceptional needs students do have goals to them, I'm understanding, and so they're probably, I don't know if they're highlighted in here. But from your conversations and around our schools, are there any, same question that I had for Kathy, are there any red flags with regard to the work that we're doing with some of those students that we need to pay attention to?
You'll get a lot of that information in the SSP plan and report in February, because it includes a lot of that. So many of the kids with plans would be reflected in that data because they have adaptations. The students on individualized programming wouldn't show up on report card marks because they would get a separate IEPR, and I have the 1 to 4 scale and NDs and NAs also on the IEPRs to report in February, and there would be very few students with NDs and NAs, and somewhat of a bell curve with, yeah, there are some kids at 1s, there's a few kids at 4s, and the bulk are in the middle, so it will look somewhat like this. Yeah.
So I'm going to put it in my understanding, if anybody else is listening, basically our students with exceptional needs, there's nothing that from the first term that's outstanding that there's a red flag to as to what it is. We're progressing the way on track, I guess is what I'm looking kind of from what I'm asking Kathy is for an executive summary to us as to what's going on, because we're not digging down into the individual, but I want to find out from, there's no surprises. And so really that's what I'm asking is, are there no surprises then for what we're doing with our exceptional students?
In terms of the reported marks, I would say no, there are no surprises. One of the things you'll see is that I've been working with schools to eliminate what could be extra plans, because there's a bunch of plans that aren't signed, which is like, it's a little bit of a concern. We don't know why. That might be that they're just drafts, but I've been addressing. That would be the one thing that was like, yeah, we need to work on that. That would be the one area that we're addressing.
So that would be the other question is that even if there is something, you're addressing it and you're working towards through it. There's no surprises that are coming. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Harris.
Kathy, does this report card data for term 1 provide any hints that COVID had an effect on learning by our students?
I honestly, and I think I've answered this once, I'm not sure that we're going to see that at a school by school or a grade by grade. I think some of the comprehensive studies that have been done by the universities that will see what sort of that larger picture impact would tell us that there are bigger picture trends on potentially language learning or anxiety issues. I think that we would see that potentially on a student by student basis, but there isn't anything here that would lead me in that trend of, wow, we've got this dip somewhere of students not learning. I think the one area that is probably agreed upon by most school divisions, although the anecdotal would be that some of the oral language skills are the places where we're seeing that students are struggling because they haven't had that in the early years. They haven't had that exposure either in French language or even English language because of time away from school and not that visibility with people speaking to them, or being able to speak back and seeing the word formation, I think.
Thanks, Kath. Is that good? All right, nice work. Thank you. Anyone else? Report card data? Okay, moving on. Early Childhood Readiness Report, Kath.
I am going to cheat a little because I highlighted some things. This is a pretty important report, and I think that it's cutting edge stuff that has sort of been homegrown here in Sunrise. So I'm going to use my highlighted version here. You don't have these highlights on your report, so don't look for them and say, where are mine? They're here because I didn't want to miss some things. So we have an early years evaluation development tool, and it's called the EYEDA because we love acronyms in education. And we've been doing these on kind of a school-by-school basis and kind of using the DA and the TA, which is a teacher assessment. It assesses a bunch of different areas, and we were doing it on a school-by-school level. And in 2018, pre-pandemic, Suzanne Deanspear and Jody Wilgosh worked on a pilot project to say, we've got to have a better way that we can use this tool. We need to be able to maximize what we're doing. So they did some assessments with all of their kindergarten students, and then the second pilot in Dugald happened, and then the third in Hazel Ridge, and then we got lambasted by a pandemic. So we sort of continued with some of those things, and then in the fall of 2021, we decided with Jackie's help and Lars and Jody and Suzanne that we were going to roll this out in all of the Sunrise School divisions. And it is a cost-neutral thing because we are shifting Claudia Olcorn, one of our speech and language pathologists, into being a early childhood readiness program lead. So we use some of the ECDI, or the Early Childhood Development Initiative money, which is a categorical grant, and just focus the program more on assessing kindergarten students. So Claudia oversees the program. She hires and trains assessors. So we have this wonderful wealth of former kindergarten teachers who come in and do one-on-one assessments with children. Parents bring children into different sites, to schools, to here, to libraries, and they do a play-based assessment of kids. We started the first year, I want to say in the springtime, and got the information to schools, and we have already begun like right off the gate this year, and we are getting to families earlier and earlier. The benefits of that is that when a child comes into kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher is saying, I know these things about this particular student, and we're flagging students who might be in the red and the yellow zone because the parents can then be doing some work at home. They have all sorts of supports that you'll see a little bit later. But again, that programming starts right away instead of the kindergarten teacher having to sort of figure out which way is up with things. So Claudia, our coordinator, then shares that information with the schools and the student support services team and the kindergarten teachers so that they hit the ground running. Everybody on the team has access to all the data, and it allows us to get those supports in place right away. It also has allowed us to sort of create that initial positive and supportive relationship with a family. So a family who's like, this is my first child entering kindergarten, I don't know what to do or which way is up. It's a nice bridge for welcome to the division. The report that they get from the assessment is actually the mirror of what we give for first term kindergarten report card. We share a blank, and so it's not something new for families. And then the nice piece about this is that just this past year, the province has said, hey, what a great way to do this, and they're fully funding the administration of the TA in every school with kindergarten in the province. So if you do the math, back in 2018 when we started doing some of this work, the province has now jumped on board and is doing some of that same work, so yay us. Actually, yay the families in our division who are benefiting from it, regardless of where it's getting paid from. Some of the data that you can see there, and then some of the things that families get. So when we start doing the assessments, they would get a Connect and Learn newsletter from September to August. Lets them have some ideas on what they can do in terms of prepping for kindergarten. They get an activity bag, so there's they can pick them up at these schools. They have book nooks. We have our public libraries partnering with us, and again, some of the information saying that these are packets that are signed out and are leaving the shelves. So we know that they're useful and the parents are getting them from there. We have an organization that's community-based that's funding packets. We've had play and learn sessions where people are benefiting from coming to a play and learn session. So someone who is struggling or is in the yellow or red on their fine and gross motor skills can come to a play and learn session. We're connecting them up so that they can get that skill. We also had a memorial donation and did a session with 8 families. They got a graduation bag from there. And again, the beautiful part is it's just really a refocusing and a reimagining of existing dollars, and is something that is truly benefiting a ton of families in kindergarten students coming into our system. So I feel like this is something that we should be super proud of, and I'm going to thank Jackie and Lars and Jody and Suzanne for sticking with it.
Thanks, Kath. Lars, did you want to add anything to it?
I'd like to bring attention specifically to a few people. Claudia has been a key factor. It's a good program. It makes sense. Lots of things work sometimes because of the people. She is passionate about this, super organized, and that is expressed to the families she works with. Patty also in the office and scheduling the appointments and stuff, super organized, got a script organized, really good with parents on the phone, because these are parents' first experience with the school system. They have questions, they have worries, they have concerns, so those two people have made this work really well. I have to give them credit for that.
Thanks, Lars. Anyone else want to comment? Were we not doing something similar 10 years ago, where we had, we were bringing, maybe not as in-depth as this, but where we were not doing something similar, where we brought kids together to see speech pathologists and occupational therapists, and I can't remember the name of it, but did we do something similar to that? And has this grown from there? Yeah. Did we?
So we had 3- and 4-year-old learning fairs, but it was an optional. We would advertise, have them in communities, come out, and you could do a hearing assessment and occupational therapy. But it wasn't really targeting that we want every kid joining us in kindergarten to come and have an individual assessment. It was different communities had the 3- and 4-year-old learning fairs.
Well, how do we get 100% of our kids that are coming to this? Would be my question then.
Yeah, it's in the report, I think 84, and I don't know the number. It's really high. It's not 100%. That was one of the things the first year is like, hey, I don't know how many we're going to get, and we were shocked by how many we got. And I don't know the stats. Yeah, 84 and 90. Yeah, I was super close.
Thank you, Lars. Thanks, Kath. Yeah, you know what, anytime that we can get parents in early, get them working with their children to help us with education, awesome. And then we're getting speech paths and we're getting OTs meeting with parents, awesome, good for you. Sorry, go ahead, Alicia, Trustee Smith.
I remember my son's daycare coordinating with the assessments back in the day, because that's how my boys all went through it. So we've had some flow going in there for a while now, yeah.
Thanks for the comment, Alicia. We're going to move on. 8.4, nice work, Kathy and Lars, with the team in that work. And thanks for giving us the heads up on those people that are really making a difference. 8.4 is religious instruction at Cole Elementary School. So it's a second reading. So be it resolved that the board approve the second reading of the religious instruction bylaw 378-23 for Cole Dugald School. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowland, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any questions on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. That allows us to go to the third reading, correct? Okay. So 8.5, religious instruction bylaw 378-23, Cole Dugald School. Be it resolved that the board approve the third reading of the religious instruction bylaw 378-23 for Cole Dugald School. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowland, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. Passed 9-0. 8.6 is the Springfield Middle School Grade 8 Ukrainian Language Program to Vegreville, Alberta and Saskatchewan, May 22nd to 25th. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Springfield Middle School Grade 8 Ukrainian Language Program to Vegreville, Alberta and Saskatchewan, May 25th, 22nd to 25th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Smith, seconded by trustee Dent. Any questions? Hearing, go ahead. Yep. Thank you. I got it now. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. You passed 9-0. Thank you for that. Now we have 8.7, Enola School Grade 5 to 8 ski trip to Assisipi Resort in Russell, February 29th to the 1st. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Enola School Grade 5 to 8 ski trip to Assisipi, February 29th to March 1st, subject to superintendent's approval. Moved by trustee Boytson, seconded by trustee Rowland. Questions? Okay, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0. Thank you. 8.8, public engagement. Okay, someone's going to have to help me on this. Okay.
All right. There was a lot of feedback at the MSBA conference back in November about how can we engage with our public and our ratepayers, trying to look at what options for platforms we have. I'll pop the report on the screen here. So the feedback was, what can we do? And our board chair reached out to Clipper, Mark Buss, to find out if we could start putting an article into the Clipper on a regular basis. So I followed up with it just to get more information. What is their expectations for our articles? What kind of requirements for timelines? When should we be submitting them? And the feedback was, they're very excited that we could participate in submitting an article on a regular basis. The timelines, though, it's when space is available. So we might put in an article, but it may not be in the Clipper that week. It might be a week or two later. So we could talk about frequency and timelines with the Clipper a little bit more, just to get an idea of when we can put it in. Other conversations at the MSBA table was, we'd really like to engage folks by social media. So in my article or in my report, I'm just looking, I guess, for feedback. I put a motion there, should we require it, but I put a recommendation that the board's going to recommend the administration, myself or Kathy, to reach out to the Clipper and get a schedule for article submissions, and that the board would ask the administration to maybe prepare some guidelines for the trustees to create their articles. And then from there, I think the board chair might have some further comments as to what this vision is going to look like. But I also wanted to know if the board is still interested in doing some research, what would social media look like and what would be our expectations. And I could put some more information together should we want to venture out there and do social media.
Thanks, Jody, for refreshing my memory. I was the one that, about us reaching out, and I reached out to Mark and he said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We heard it from some of the other school divisions about trustees writing articles. And whether it's writing articles about what your school is about, if it's about writing an article so that people can get to know you and they can reach out, or their concerns or whatever that they have, to go ahead and do that. One of the things that I don't think, and I think all of us are in the same boat, is that we just don't do enough public engagement. And yeah, they see us maybe when we're in schools or at Christmas concerts, and those things are great, but here's something for us to think about. I'm willing to write some articles and go ahead and do it. So it's really about, are people interested in doing this? Floor is open. Trustee Smith.
Articles are huge, but when it comes to social media, it's almost like we would have to have one page that we would all be administrators of, basically. And then, let's say, Kathy approves it to make sure, yeah, it checks all the boxes, it's okay to be published. We could put a comment in, but then Kathy would have to be like, yeah, that checks all the boxes, we're clear, we're good, it's approved.
So I think social media is one thing. This is really about us talking about first step. First step is about writing an article. I think the second part is the board needs to own social media if we're going to go ahead and put a social media account together. That's a conversation for us to have as we're talking about future discussions and engagement as to what it is. Absolutely. This really is about, you know what, we heard about it at MSBA, that there's some school divisions that were doing it. I reached out to Mark, he said, sure. You know what, I think that I talked about a 400-word report that could go out. If people are interested, great. If they're not interested, that I'm okay too. But open it up. Alicia?
I think it would be nice to have information about the school division that doesn't involve sports. There's a lot of sports in the papers, all that. I would like to have other things in the paper. What else are we doing? So that's a great idea, but I want to push more of the other things.
So I think that that's great, Alicia. So I think that if you're willing, is that at one time that you're going to write something and you're not going to write anything about sports. And I too probably shouldn't be writing about sports because I talk about enough sports, but there are all kinds of great things that are going on in our schools. And this is a way of us trying to highlight, or it's a way of us trying to, you know, I've been trying to think about catchy names. Is called the trustee corner? Is this whatever that we're going to go ahead and call it? But it's really about, because if Trustee Smith is going to write it, it's going to be Sunrise School Division Home Trustee Corner by Trustee Smith. And here's where it is. And again, it's really about you trying to get people to read, and do you know what, maybe they're going to comment back to you, or they're going to call you, or they're going to engage with you as to some of the things that are going on. Maybe it is about that we're just proud and we're puffing our chest and we're pretty proud about our schools. There's nothing wrong with that either. But a part of it is I think that we all at MSBA said that we weren't engaging enough, and this was this one idea for us to do this. Anyone else? Something to think about? That's fine. Others? Trustee Harris?
So the end of this report does have a couple of possible motions. One regarding discussing with the Clipper, the other getting a report back about social media that we would ask our senior admin. I assume them would be doing the work. I would suggest we just add a date to each of those as to when they think a report could be done by, knowing that budget is coming up. I think a lot of our time is going to be spent on that. Do we want to have a report by next Tuesday's meeting, or do we want to have one for March or April?
Well, that's a good point, but the issue is it's not about having our senior admin write the articles.
No. That's not what the motion is saying, though.
But I just want to make sure is that if we're going to, this is about us writing the articles, and I don't have a problem about writing a few, about going ahead and doing this. And again, if somebody doesn't feel comfortable about it, that's okay too. It's not saying that every 9 people have to go ahead and do that. I don't have a problem about writing articles and talking about schools. I just thought that this was a good way for us to, I've been thinking about doing this in our local paper for a little while. And if we need to do some more thinking about it, let's do some more thinking about it, because I'm looking at you and you're going, are you crazy, Paul? That's what I'm feeling right now. I don't have a problem doing that, but I just want to make sure about how people feel about this. If I'm offside, let me know.
I think the thing that you want to do is it's a great idea and it's a lovely way to engage with public. I think what you're talking about are just some guidelines around if any one of you writes an article, is it the view of all of you as a board? Because as an individual trustee, you're not presenting that. And so what's your mechanism for coming back and saying, are we all okay with X, Y, or Z? I think that's probably the ask you want. Do you want us to put something together saying, here are some guidelines or a procedure or something that kind of keeps you in line with that? In 2.5 years' time, do you want that to be a process that continues and that anybody around the room could see? I think is what you're looking for.
That's what my thoughts were when I'm sitting here silently, because I'm thinking our voices through you as our chair, and we have to be a combined voice. We don't speak separately. So my concern would be, you know, if one of us writes something and we want to attach our name to it, but it's really not how the whole board feels, then that could cause problems. So maybe it's you know, I would like to see something, maybe even quarterly, you know, every couple months, every 3 months or something in the paper of maybe, you know, even highlights or something that lets people know that we're out there, but something that's put together by all of us, and it's the name that's attached is Sunrise Board of Trustees or something, not one individual person. Because I think that's a scary slope to go down if we start doing individual things.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, just Alicia. I think it would have been about explaining what we're looking at going ahead and doing. Part of it is also just, I think, sharing some information. And, you know, maybe it's also about, hey, if you don't know, this is, hey, I represent Powerview. These are some of the things that are going on. These are things that I really like. I'd love to hear some feedback. These are some of the things the school division is going ahead and doing. That's what I kind of thought was information. Because I think what I want out of here is for someone to call me. Because I don't get a whole lot of telephone calls. How many get telephone calls? I get I don't get very many telephone calls at all. I'll get a few. But I just don't know how, and we don't have to do this, but I just don't know how we're engaging, because when I look around, we're not getting, now, I know a lot of you are going out and getting yourself visible with communities, which is great. But, you know what, I would love to say that everything's going great at Poverty School, but I don't know that. I don't have any feedback, really. And so, you know, I thought that this was trying to be one way. I'm not somebody saying, oh, tell me all the stuff that's going on. That's not it at all. But I do want to promote some of the stuff that's going on for sure. And then ask people about, yeah, what do you think? Go ahead. Yep.
I think we actually talked about this in a previous term a little bit, and it was, you know, it hasn't had the result we wanted, but I think it's great we're visiting it again. One of the things that I think maybe the focus could be more on sort of a, what do you call it, an opinion piece, which is kind of what is just like a board update. And where, like you're saying, you want to give information about what is happening at schools. And I think that is, you know, we could highlight different schools or quarterly. I know it's budget time coming. It would be a great time to connect with the public about what we end up ultimately deciding. And some of that information might be repetitive of what we do say in this room today or any month, but not everybody's going online to watch videos or aware of that link or whatnot. But Clipper does have good distribution, and reiterating our successes and stuff, just like propane buses or any, you know, accolades we can put out there would be great. Even all our school renovations and all that, you know. Not everybody, we talk about it a lot, but really people maybe aren't quite as aware in other sections of the division. But I would call that a wonderful idea to maybe just focus on, you know, board progress, school division progress, and information maybe about offerings or anything like that would be wonderful. I don't think maybe opinion piece. But we could all decide or individually decide on an area we'd like to highlight, submit it to our board for, consensus, and then put it in. I think that would be lovely.
Melissa?
Just from hearing the topics here, it sounds like there needs to be a separate discussion about some of this, because there's a lot of different ideas. So I know that the board wants to work on engagement with the public. Awesome, really good. This is one way, but it sounds like there's too many ideas right now on what this would accomplish and why. It sounds like that's the foundation part that needs to be decided first. What do we want to accomplish? That would direct what the content of these things and the method of communication would be. And we won't arrive at that in the next 10 minutes.
So why don't I, Kathy just said, is that why don't I work with Kathy to come up with a process? We'll come back on the first week in February and, see about if that's something that we can live with about doing. And I got you loud and clear, certainly, about opinions. Points are well taken. It's really about us trying to engage, but let's come up with that if that's okay. We'll do that process. Come back on February the 6th. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Committee reports. Policy Committee. Dawn, Policy Committee. Any updates from the Policy Committee, Dawn?
I know there's no updates. We're having a meeting on January yet, so the last meeting was in November, so the update.
Thanks, Dawn. So I'm going to go to Finance Committee updates. Lorraine.
The minutes are there for trustees to see. Nothing was jumping out at us at the last finance meeting. We seem to be kind of on track. A few little things, but they'll work themselves out as we go forward. Your summary is in the packages, so Secretary Treasurer's summary is there for everybody to see. And our next meeting is on the 19th? I know it's next week, whatever that date is. Coming at 18th. I didn't have my glasses on, just put them on. So have more updates then.
So thanks, Lorraine. So I did at agenda setting have a conversation certainly about where we are with potential deficit this year, and then where we're going to move forward with regard to our accumulated surplus and those kind of things. And that is something that Jody's going to bring to us conversations around on Monday. As we're collecting that information, I said to Jody and Kathy today, the information that's on ESB with regard to the budget information is very good. Take the time. You do need to do some homework to it. Take the time to go ahead and read it. They've put a lot of work into it. The schools have clearly laid out what are some of the things that their requests and those kind of things. So there's lots of information, and I think you've done a good job in presenting it, Jody. So thanks for going ahead and doing that. And thanks, Lorraine, for the update with regard to the Finance Committee. We do have a check register, 813. Be it resolved that the board received the November 2023 check register. The amount issued is $5,003,078.47. Reviewed on December the 21st by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. Moved by Trustee Boytson, seconded by Trustee Dent. Any questions to that? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. It passed 9-0. Education Foundation Committee, you guys met and you just want to share a little bit of an update, Jody?
Yeah, we met, it seems like so long ago, but we met and we discussed potential procedures and policies. So it was a good discussion, but there'll be more discussions on procedures and policies. I pulled information from other school divisions. It was surprising to find out that not everybody is as robust for information or a policy and procedure. Some of them have the basic terminology for a trust fund, much like ours already. So it was interesting to know that their procedures are very kind of simplified to the context of what the trust fund is all about. Anything more than that, it's dealt with at usually the board level, the board that oversees the trust fund. So we're doing a lot of good work. I've shared some information with some other school divisions just to get their feedback, and yeah, they're impressed with what we've done too. So.
Thanks. Dustin, you were there. Did you want to add anything to that? You're on this committee. I think Dawn's on the committee, right?
Yeah, we had met in parts last time, so I think I missed I think the first 30 minutes or 45 minutes with another commitment. But yeah, just like Jody said, we were looking at other policies from other schools and looking at adaptations and trying to consolidate something for the division.
Dawn, is there anything to add to this from your point?
No, except that we hope at the meeting January the 1st, we might have some lines to present to the board. If not, we'll have a meeting afterward. But we probably want to finalize everything before we send it to the board.
Dawn, we're having a hard time hearing you, but you're saying something about January 31st. Is that going to be a problem? It's our next meeting.
January 31st is our next meeting.
Yeah, my understanding what he said was January 31st we might be able to finalize everything, and then we may need another meeting just to go through it one more time. If not, we might be able to bring something to the board at the next board meeting.
Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Jody. Anyone else? Education Foundation? Okay, professional development. We're going to move on that. Divisional Finance Summary Report. We have one for information. Any questions on it for the Divisional Financial Summary Report? Any questions? Okay, Trustee Harris?
Is that item and that report available to the public for viewing as of now? It is, okay, thank you.
Top secret or? Okay. What else do we have? Board correspondence, nice to know information. So there's a whole list of information that's there. And you're right, Alicia, a lot of that from there is sporting stuff. And there's lots of good things as we highlight, when you guys highlight stuff. You know what, there's lots of good things that are going on in our school. So thanks for talking about that. Thanks, Stacy, for listing all those things that are there from the Clipper. Appreciate it. We have upcoming meetings, a regular board meeting next Tuesday, then February the 6th, and then we have a whole slew of budget meetings that are coming up. Questions from the public. Jody, do we have any questions from the public?
No, just check my emails, nothing.
I just needed to refresh my, because you put it in here, I think, Stace, right? Oh, there we go. So you don't have anything, Jude? Okay. So I think items from in-camera, we do have one. It's what we talked about. It's about, be it resolved that the board create an ad hoc committee to address land planning in the Springfield area. The ad hoc committee will be no more than 4 trustees, the secretary, treasurer, and the superintendent. Be it further resolved that the ad hoc land planning committee bring back a proposal plan by the March 5th, 2024 board meeting. So I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder, and then we'll have some discussion to it. Moved by Trustee Dent and seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any questions, comments? Welcome. Okay. Hearing none, then we can still vote on this, Stace? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll vote then. Okay, maybe it's because I didn't join the meeting again, and maybe this is me holding this up, and yes, it is. All right, thank you. I passed 9-0, thank you. So we do have a little bit of business to do then. Sorry, we need to fill 4 trustees for this committee. I'm open for people that are interested to sit on this committee. Trustee Dent, you'd like to sit on this committee? Trustee Boytson, Trustee Smith, Trustee Rowan. That's 4. If we have more, then we'll vote on it. Otherwise, we'll appoint the 4. And if you want to go on it, that's... No?
Actually, I do, I would like to.
Sure.
Okay.
Like Springfield.
Okay. So, you know what, don't get me wrong, I'm glad, if you'd like that, if the 4 local trustees, I think there's probably a good idea for us to go ahead and put the 4 local trustees on. If you're willing to let your name go, then we've got Trustee Rowan, Trustee Rowland, Trustee Boytson, and Trustee Dent. If we're okay with that, let's go ahead, and you're okay with that, Lisa?
I just wanted to set history and planning, but that's...
Don't worry, they'll come and reach out to you for sure then, certainly about it. Okay, we good with that? Can I get heads nods that we're good? So those will be our appointments to that committee? We good with that? Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you for doing that. That's it, and then I understand. Have I missed anything from anybody? All right, great word, adjournment, 8/10/2024, look at that. Somebody's even counting the minutes there we go. Must be the new me. Thank you for coming out and watching.
Are we going back to the camp?
Yeah.
Yes, we are done. We're going to go ahead and get a report from Trustee Rowan.